Good morning. Thank you so very much. A very wonderful show. And if you're just tuning in, thank you so much for choosing us, as we will always choose you. Thanks to our YouTube fans and family members over there. And please remember, when you're on our YouTube channel, to hit the like and subscribe button. There are people who wake up every morning and they rise with us. And we're
hit
so
the
grateful.
Notification bell as well.
Yeah.
So that you will not miss out on any of the content. It lets you know, like for me, from 5:30, it let you know, hey, exercise videos and ting.
Absolutely. So hit the notification button, the like and the subscribe button. And of course, word of mouth always definitely goes a far way. So DC says, Dennis Brown's How Could I Leave is her greatest love song.
How Could I Leave? Which one is How Could I Leave?
No, I wonder.
How could
I leave? Maybe if you never have a prenup, I don't know.
Divine Ray says, turn your lights down low. Bob Marley. Yeah, that's
okay. Turn your lights down low. Yeah. And Real Talk Diva says, Miss Kitty, your blouse is kicking. I love the color. Thanks, Real Talk Diva. Yeah, it's nice. From Fabulous Trends. Yeah, over there in shops at Southdale. Yeah, big up Miss Brown and Jane. You know, for this and the entire outfit. Thank you for your kind compliment. And them have clothes over there for you. But when you go, please just tell them Miss Kitty sent you. Okay. So yeah. It's all about fabulous trends, darling. We're always trending and we're always fabulous. Now, so happy that you could be with us. I hope you saw the episode before, because it links to this one as well. Absolutely. Because it's Law and Order, JA. And our question this morning from one of you reads as follows. My name is Simone and I'm from Mandeville. Before we got married, my husband insisted, demanded that I sign a prenup. He told me it's just a formality, but also made it clear that without my signature, there would be no wedding. After signing, I learned that he owns a villa in Ocho Rios and a penthouse in Kingston, separate from our Cherry Garden home. I had nothing but love, commitment, and faith in our future. For years, I ran our home, raised his children, cared for his sick mother, and supported his career. Now I've discovered that not only has he been cheating on me for years, but that the prenup I signed leaves me with nothing if we divorce. I feel this is really unfair. Would the law really leave me with nothing? To ventilate this issue and to unpack all of this,
that's a lot.
Noted attorney at law, Jonathan Morgan, partner at Duncox Attorneys at Law, and joining us this morning, he will, help us with his legal expertise and knowledge to ventilate this issue. Jonathan, welcome and good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm quite well. I'm happy to be here as always.
Very well. Prenup. This is a lot, Jonathan. Simone is in a spot of bother, and I can see a lot of women saying, that happened to me, to Simone. What do you tell Simone this morning about
How do you advise?
Yeah, well, this one is very detailed. I think for the viewers, it's a good place to start by understanding what a prenuptial agreement actually is. So that is an agreement entered into between two parties who are contemplating getting married, and it is aimed at deciding how to divide property in the event of separation or divorce.
Yes.
So a prenuptial agreement is governed by the law. The name of the legislation is the Property Rights and Spouses Act. And Section 10 of that Act sets out specific requirements that must go into such a document. It must be in writing. Both parties must have independent legal advice. It must be signed. It must be witnessed by a JP and so on. But important and related to Simone's question is the fact that the prenuptial agreement must be fair. It cannot be unjust in its creation. So her question raises a number of issues. It raises an issue concerning whether or not she was pressured into it. I believe the question indicated the husband said, no prenup, no wedding.
Yes.
And she also indicated the husband did not disclose certain properties, a villa and so on.
I was thinking, do you have to have, full disclosure before for it to be valid?
Indeed. So the law requires that the parties disclose in the prenuptial agreement the properties that they wish to divide after the marriage, and that must be full disclosure. They're required to divulge all of their assets to each other so that they enter into the arrangement freely and with full information as to the state of affairs.
They mentioned the marital home in Cherry Garden. I mean, I know that the law treats the marital home in a particular way. Is the marital home subject to the prenuptial agreement as well?
So it may be. What happens is that the prenuptial agreement is designed to take the division of property outside of the scope of the legislation. So if it is properly prepared, if there is no unfairness, if she was not pressured into it with some undue influence, then the prenuptial agreement can determine how the marital home is divided. It could remain with the husband, for example.
So that prenups are not a one-size-fits-all. You can design yours according to your situation and your agreement. But one of the things that stuck out to me was when Simone said, he said, no prenup, no marriage. And at the end of the day, Simone didn't seem that she went and got her legal advice. She just signed.
What I was thinking about the legal advice is, so for instance, if me and you get married, and everybody know you are coming with your money, so you want to protect yourself from me, and then we go and visit your attorney, Jonathan Morgan, and we just sign. I never had my own attorney.
That's a problem. So a judge could look into that.
We just worked with your attorney and we just signed. That can be, you have to have two separate attorneys?
You should.
That's correct.
Yes.
It is a requirement that both parties have their own lawyer, and that the lawyer advises them as to the effect of the agreement before signing. In the absence of it, the prenuptial agreement may be said to be unenforceable.
Yes.
It may be thrown out altogether.
Yes.
That also touches on another point. The law recognizes that people getting into a marriage tend to have different levels of power and influence on each other. And if one party has greater influence and exploits their dominant position to secure some unreasonable advantage, it's another ground for potentially throwing out a prenup.
Yeah, and that is why it's so important to get the independent, individual legal advice. Because as an attorney, I can then say, well, but Dennis went to his lawyer, and his lawyer advised him, and he still signed it.
Yes.
But if Dennis didn't have anybody, and we just went to Jonathan, and you just signed, that could be grounds for the prenup to be thrown out, to be dismissed.
So prenups aren't airtight then?
They aren't. They can be if they're done properly and all of the formalities are followed, and if they are fair. But if there is unfairness, if there was undue influence by the dominant party over the more vulnerable party, the court will look at that and decide, let's not enforce this one. Let us return to the terms of the legislation.
Yes.
And under the legislation, the marital home is equally divided.
Right.
That's the presumption that is usually maintained. And other properties are looked at to see whether contributions were made in the financial manner or in the non-financial.
I was about to say
that because non-financial does matter as well. A lot of people tend to think that if you don't come with hard currency, but the law also takes into consideration caring for his sick mother, caring for his children, helping him with to further his career. So, for example, if you tell me, stop going to school, man, or don't bother work. Now you've made me become accustomed to a certain type of lifestyle. I have given up my education. I have given up my career for you. Therefore,
three children, sick
later,
mother, you know.
That's me contributing as well to your growth and development, and the law does take that into consideration. So no matter you're not carrying the comment, so you're not building.
What do you bring to the table? The famous table.
Absolutely, and that is spot on. But it only applies in the event that the prenuptial agreement is not enforced.
Yes.
So if it is unfair, if there are terms that would leave the wife with nothing, and the court thinks that there was some undue influence in its creation, the court will revert to that and factor in her non-financial contributions as well, specific to Simone, her care for the children, her care for his aged mother, and her support of him in the background while he pursued his business.
Yeah.
Question then. All right, so say the prenup is deemed enforceable, and so I'm leaving with what I came in. What about spousal support after? Is that covered under prenup? Or is that,
it might have been.
How do you treat like alimony? Do we call it alimony in Jamaica?
Yes. Okay. So first, before we dive directly into spousal support, there is a notion that prenups typically require the parties to leave with what they came in with.
Yes.
And that's not quite the case. It could set out a different arrangement. The point is the terms of the prenup decide how property is divided after they part ways, and it may also factor in things like spousal maintenance.
So you can only get $100,000 per month.
The parties may agree on
agree. You can only get 20% of the villa in Ochi, not half. for example, or 10. And you can only access this if we are married for 10 years.
That's right. Those types of terms may be injected into a prenuptial agreement, which outline the separation requirements and obligations thereafter.
Again, there's no one size fits all. It's not like, you get nothing, go away, da da da. It's a very tailored, bespoke kind of an agreement that you can design for your situation.
And that is why it's important to get legal advice so you know what you're entering into. So you're not blindsided and you don't just sign willy-nilly because it has implications. However, if it is, as Jonathan is saying, as in the situation of Simone, you just go ahead and you sign, you know, maybe undue influence, maybe a man with power and money. So, you know, that's a choice.
But suppose a two broke journalists, where you need sign prenup for?
Well, then it's maybe I have something, maybe my mother left piece of land for me, maybe my mother left a house for me. It might not be a mansion, it might not be a 10-story house, but I have 5 acres of land in the country and I want to protect it. I have some furniture. It might not be 10 billion worth, but you know, it's mine. I worked hard, I have a little car, I have a little something, because remember, when you get married, you become one. So some people want a prenup, you know what I mean? But the bigger the stakes, because obviously, I'm like a Jonathan, no. We established no. I like you, no. We established. I understand have a big check on them, something day. And me just come as a little jobby. Me forget half away, and Dennis, I met you built.
True.
You know what I mean?
I'm missing you go university.
Exactly, and I made you big, and I met you accomplished. I met you as you are. Some people might say it's unfair for me to come, they go, Dennis, I get half of everything. When I really didn't create Dennis, I didn't help you. I never built Jonathan, I never sent Jonathan to law school. So how come you just come in and half? Is that fair? Is that right? You know? So sometimes, you know, you may not think you have a rich, you know, but you want to protect your asset.
Dispel the notion then that prenuptial agreements or requesting a prenuptial agreement is somehow an indication of non-genuine love or something like that.
So prenuptial agreements do...
That's the first rule. You know this. Yes,
absolutely. Prenuptial agreements do contemplate the division of property upon separation or upon divorce. So when people present the option of signing it, the other party tends to take offense that you're thinking about divorce before we even get married.
Exactly.
I see where it comes from. But the reality is that life is unpredictable. And the desire for parties is to have certainty upon the joining into a union and the potentiality of separation. Not that we are saying it's likely to happen, but it's possible. And in light of that possibility, parties should be aware of what they are going to exit with if that eventuality comes to be.
So Simone has some course of justice here, recourse that she can take.
Right. In this situation, there was the non-disclosure of some properties. She learned about it after signing. So that is an issue that would lead to unenforceability. She did display some non-financial contributions, care for his children, care for his sick mother, his aged and sick mother, and support while he is pursuing his business. So that would weigh into whether she receives a share of the properties that are even beyond the matrimonial home. And then the law provides that for the matrimonial home, there's a presumption of 50%. So it does sound like she has some recourse, that she's not likely to leave this marriage with nothing.
Yeah. So the prenup, you also have a post-nup, I want persons to know, right? So after we get married, I assess the situation. I say, you know what, let's do something after, which is a post-nup. But Jonathan, let me just ask you, how popular are prenups? A lot of people, we talk about it often, but in your years of practice, I mean, have you ever done any prenups?
Oh, I have, but it tends to be reserved for people who have large volumes of assets. So for those deep-pocketed clients, they tend to lean in favor of getting a prenup signed. But it's not very commonplace in Jamaica.
Right, the deep-pocketed persons who are going to send us, you know, $2 million US that you're not using. But Jonathan, thank you so very much for, you know, helping us to distill all the information. And I hope that Simone is watching and would have heard, and all the other persons watching as well, because, you know, we can learn from other people's situation and circumstance.
Indeed. And it sounds like men need to ask more for prenups. They need to, because the statistics show that more women file for divorce than men.
Okay.
So men might need to cover themselves
and protect
more
their assets.
more than women.
Well, my thing is, once you've worked hard and you've built yourself for your assets, I don't believe anybody should come and just take it and pilfer it, and just because, oh, half. I don't like that. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
I cringe at that kind of behavior when somebody, you meet them, the person work hard, achieve, and just because you know you can, you want to dig out them eye. I don't like that.
No,
I don't like that.
right.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah. Now, so you
That's
don't forget nothing, don't get me wrong.
But
don't overdo.
fear is fear.
Yeah, fear is fear. Yes.
Well, that's it for Law and Order. JA, our guest has been Jonathan Morgan, partner at Duncox Attorneys at Law. Chronicles of Love is up next. Stay with us. You don't want to miss it.